connected. Okay. So now a bit. Ooh. Oh, hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Welcome to the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. With our small local audience, but our wide world out there watching us from far away. I'm Thundercloud, Mum calls me James. I've got a blue hat on, it's uncomfortable, and I'll throw it away. Begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we broadcast tonight, the Kamilaroi people, and the traditional custodians of all the First Nations across the continent now called Australia, and the continuing connection to the land of the elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge that sovereignty's never ceded, ever. All right, on that note, so we've done that officiality. Welcome to Wednesday Words, everybody. We have a small group tonight. Gabriel is away with his play. Gladys didn't make it in because of the rain, and it's very, very rainy. Yes. And Steve's away. Paul might make it in later on. Who knows? But welcome Ashley, Doug, Isabel, and everybody out there in Facebook land.
Potent gathering.
No apologies needed.
No. One of the things that's happening here on the 12th of November is Wayne Donnelly, a comedy hypnotist, is coming all the way down from the Sunshine Coast. He's on a bit of a tour out in Maureen, a few other places. So he'll be here on the 12th, which I think is a Saturday evening. And yeah, it should be an interesting show. I might turn off that flickering light because it's going to mess with the camera, unfortunately. And tonight's special that I'm going to be focusing on is a couple of female authors, poets, one contemporary and one past. The contemporary one, and I've been reading out of this over the last few weeks, is Boy Renaissance, the winner of the Nimbin Performance Poetry World Cup this year in Nimbin. And Boy Renaissance, they've sent me their PDF of their book called Author and Melody, subtitle Two Women Fall in Love, Wind is on their side, Time is not. And that particular part of the title, Wind is on their side, time is not, is relevant as you read. Wind is on their side. Wind, like yeah. And time is not. So there are four voices within this kind of, it's 5 or 6 acts or so. And one of them is there's author, there's melody, there's the voice of wind, and there's the voice of time. So here we go. I'll be continuing on Act 3 where I was up to last time. Act 3. Background setting. A wood of pines, a path half carved, half covered in overgrowth. The grass is speckled with afternoon light. Along the path's edge a golden flower grows. Its petals glow bright and fold out like a half-bloomed rose. It's known as sun tongue. Enter author and melody holding hands. Author lingers a step behind, scoping the forest. Melody guides on with a sure step. Sparrows dance around the lovers. Wind plays around their shoulders. My author, shed your shoes, watch not the brambles, cast sunset from your mind, and trust your feet will guide you. She's leading me to ravens' nests, to pick clean what I'm left. Melody laughed like a sparrow's call, uttered something neath her breath, sighed and shook her head. Then wind, in wind's elation, leapt before the lovers and greeted them as friends, brushed their cheeks and with a huff sent their hair into a ruffled mess. Melody came bashful and rushed to brush it down. Author broke in laughter. You look beautiful. A frown, mouth cracking to a smirk, eyes down, attempt to hide her flutters. Wind snickered through the rustling leaves and watched the trick with pride. Author, meet my oldest friend, the infamous rascal Wind. Melody kicked dust into the air and fiddled with her hair. Pleased to meet you, whirlwind artist, Author shouted out. You make any barber jealous with this dastard feat. Yes, I recognise your breeze. I'm surprised it's only now we meet. Time stalked from distant hills, spying these curious creatures play, like infants on the shore before the tide eats shore away. Melody's eyes gleamed up at her love. Dear Author, we're always children, students of the day. Wind taught me this when I first learned to love the breeze, not turn away. On that comment, Wind whirled up a dance of leaves and dust. All forms of nature's fallen petals waltzed around their bodies, and from this dance, Melody plucked a growing sun tongue sailing. Like these flowers, so my heart is always in the light. Even when the night has come, its petals are in sight. Then giggling, dear Melody plucked stray leaves from her author's hair, paused and left a few attached. Just beautiful, she dared. She slid the glowing sun tongue behind her lover's ear and sung like only she could sing. Time belongs to you and I, my love is thine. My heart glows gold behind your ears and ever round these pines. Shackle-shadowed Author, I'm not leaving you behind. My Melody, Author pled, how terrified am I? You've given me your heart and now have stolen my reply. So they stood with tangled toes and hands caressing necks, and Time stood there, standing startled, couldn't help but freeze again. The sun hung high and snuck a gaze, breathing faithful rays through trees. The sparrows kept on whistling, but ceased their beating wings. Every creature in the forest paused a moment, lest they miss the scene. Two blooming hearts exchanging authors and melodies. I'll go on to read the exchange. I adore her for the way her scent crawls into my throat and I breathe her. I adore her, not for the small talk, but in the moments of synchronization when our minds collaborate without words, and when in words we disagree and gape at the contrast of opinions. I adore her for the way our bodies lock together and I am safe, for the whispers of her solace into my restlessness. In the morning when she wakes before me, I can feel her watching. In nakedness, when skin melts onto skin like candle wax and we are alike. In hysterics, when laugh turns into cackle, turns into doubling over silence, solitary, we hide from time. I adore her for those sky gazes, the glaze in her eyes when they see my thoughts. In the dimness when cheeks are swallowed and courtesy licked clean in the dirt and darkness, blood dripping on breast and breathless moaning, groaning when soul meets soul and sex a breath. We each a lung breathing the world in, breathing each other in. Time freezes. Author and melody in place and walks towards them. Melody's fingers are paused midway through author's hair. Author's hands are locked around Melody's neck. Time strokes the sun-tongue flower which withers under the bone hand. Okay, I'll pause there. Hello, Vincent.
Oh, mate.
No, not at all. Welcome.
I looked at the clock and I thought it's only 6:30. No worries. Then, oh my gosh, 5 to 7.
I know, it doesn't try to get away.
Oh,
Well, this is like, what is it? The wind is on their side, time is not.
oh, yeah. Should have thought about that.
And as you know, the wind blows on everybody.
Hey,
Yeah.
now I can see it. It's raining outside.
Well, look, I did have further intentions a bit earlier to begin the night with this, but totally forgot because I just got carried away. And it's not even an Australian poet. It's Emily Dickinson, an American poet, very little known in her lifetime, but she's since become regarded as one of very important literary figures in American poetry. And it's just a simple one called "This Quiet Dust Was Gentlemen and Ladies." This quiet dust was gentlemen and ladies and lads and girls, was laughter and singing and frocks and curls. This passive place, a summer's nimble mansion where bloom and bees fulfilled their oriental circuit, then ceased like these. Yeah. We're all just stardust. 99% stardust. And okay, and then now, so I've done one contemporary poet, so that's Boy Renaissance. They've and their author and melody are part of that. Now, I'm going back from Emily Dickinson, or back in time in Australia, to Lesbia Harford. Lesbia Harford, she was born in 1891 and died in 1927, so 2 years before this building was built. She was a poet, a novelist, and a political activist, particularly to do with women's rights, and sexual relations. So she was at one time married, but later on she was, I believe, a lesbian. So there we go. So she wrote love poetry for to both men and women, and she was well known particularly for love poetry, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on tonight. Well, not all of that. She began writing verse in 1910 when she was 19, and in May 1921, the magazine Birth, a small poetry magazine published in Melbourne, gave a whole of a section to her poems. In 1927, 3 of her poems were published in Searle's Australasian Anthology, and the critic H.M. Green wrote that she's written some of the best lyrics among today's, and certainly I would say the best love lyrics written out here. So that's high praise there. Mrs. Keogh thought Lesbia's writing was beautiful, and in 1939 was still trying to get her novel and more poems published. Okay, so yeah, in 1941 there was a small volume of 54 poems of Lesbia Harford was published, edited by Nellie Palmer of Melbourne University Press. So if anyone out there has a copy of that and they would like it to end up in the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame Library and Archive, well then you can send it here, 144 Bradley Street, Guyra, and it can go with all the other books that you can send us to. Right, so some of her poetry collections, there was the Poems of Lesbia Harford in 1941, also in 1985 another volume was published, also in the Collected Poems of Lesbia Harford, edited by Oliver Dennis in 2014 by University of WA Press. So I'll have to look that one up because yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What's her first name, please?
Lesbia, Lesbia.
Oh, my brother's name's Leslie.
Yeah.
That's her first name. Wow.
Yeah. So.
Hoping to get the phone call true.
No, that's all right.
My phone never really was shattered.
No. Oh, look, Gladys runs off at us. We all had that, haven't we?
I like the old time phone myself. I like the ring. Excuse me.
No. Now, Suburban Dames. That's the first one I'm going to do. Well, that's the name of the poem. Suburban Dames. Yeah. Dames, yeah. All day long, we sew fine muslin up for you to wear. Muslin that women wove for you elsewhere. 1,000,000 strong, just like flames, insatiable. You eat up all our hours, and sun, and loves, and talk, and flowers. Suburban dames. Ooh. Yeah, it's quite profound, really. Like, I want to hear that again.
Yes, I'll
yeah. Suburban dames. All day long, we sew fine muslin up for you to wear. Muslin that women wove for you elsewhere. 1,000,000 strong. Just like flames, insatiable, you eat up all our hours, and the sun and loves and talk and flowers. Suburban dames.
Very powerful and simple, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So it's got an A BBA rhyming structure there. So you've got like all day long, we so fine wasn't up for you to wear, Muslim that women were for you elsewhere, and then a million strong, rhyming with the long up the top. And then in the second paragraph, second stanza, just like flames, insatiable you eat up all our hours, the sun and loves and talk of flowers, suburban dames. So that's ABBA. And those first and last lines are only just like flames, suburban dames, 3 or 4 syllables, where the 2 middle lines of each stanza are quite long.
We know nothing.
Oh well, look, I could just show you, point it out, but anyway.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, the next one.
Great.
Is really quite profound as well. I have read this one out before. It's called The Folk I Love. I do hate the folk I love. They hurt so. Their least word and act may be source of woe. Won't you come to tea with me? Not today. I'm so tired I've been to church, such folks say. All the dreary afternoon I must clutch at the strength to love like them, not too much. Yeah.
Shocker, isn't
It is. It's that hypocrisy, isn't it? Pointing out, yeah.
it? Closer to Emily Dickinson than you would think, actually.
Really, quite, yeah.
Like, in some way, some resonance in it.
Yeah.
Sardonic. She's always sardonic, I think.
All right. Well, the next one that I've got in here, and this one, lucky that was only one I had marked, and I got the page. Is called "I'm Like All Lovers, Wanting Love to Be." Yeah. I don't need a drink, but
I've only got bottles of rum here.
Is this the Lesbia Harford too?
It's another Lesbia Harford.
I'll get a glass of water. Oh.
Yeah, I'll get through this. I actually got a cup of tea out there waiting for me. I've forgotten. Oh, you look, could you? Yeah, it's just on the bench there. I'm like all lovers, wanting love to be a very mighty thing for you and me. In certain moods, your love should be a fire that burnt your very life up in desire. The only kind of love then, to my mind, would make you kiss my shadow on the blind and walk 7 miles each night to see it there, myself within, serene and unaware. But you're as bad, you'd have me watch the clock and counting your coming while I mend your sock. You'd have my mind devoted day and night to you and care for you and your delight. Poor fools who each would have the other give, what spirit must withhold it if it would live? You are not my slave, I wish you not to be. I love yourself and not your love for me. The self that goes 10,000 miles away and loses thought of me for many a day. And you loved me for loving much beside, but now you want a woman for your bride. Oh, make no woman of me you who can, or I will make a husband of a man. But my unwomanly love that sets you free, love all myself, but least the woman in me.
Very good. What's the last line again? It's paradoxical.
By my unwomanly love that sets you free, love all myself, but least the woman in me. Thanks, Isabel.
That's sad, isn't it? That's sad, isn't it? Realistic. Sigmund Freud would have loved that poem.
All right, well, I got this out of 60 classic Australian poems, and just to dissect it a little bit here, the commentary. Written in 1917, 10 years before her death in 1927, aged 28. Lesbia Harford's I'm like all lovers wanting love to be is both curiously modern and traditional. Some aspects go straight back to the 17th century. Metaphysical poets such as John Donne and Andrew Marvell. In other ways it's modern as to be seriously ahead of its time. Though Harford wrote love poems to both men and women, this one is very much to a man, almost certainly the problematic artist husband she married in 1920 and broke up with a few years later. However, mixed feelings in real life might have been Harford's poem as a structure that is neat, logical and compelling. She begins by noting how she herself is thrilled and flattered by having a lover who is so burnt up in desire that he will walk 7 miles to kiss her shadow in the blind. Then she notes that the man himself is just as bad. He wants a similarly undivided attention from her. So far we are in traditional love poem territory, especially as the woman is concerned. So suddenly at the beginning of stanza 7, the poem becomes quite modern in her outlook, arguing that such obsessive devotion by either or both parties is what the spirit must withhold if they would live. Much better, she says, to love the other person for what they actually are, rather than for their devotion to one's self. That is, to love the full complexity of their character. So ultimately the poet asks fiercely that her man make no woman of me. Originally he loved her for loving much beside. Now she wants him to stick to that. She acknowledges that in the society of their time, the man has the power to make her behave this way, but threatens that if he does, she will in turn make a husband of a man, a comparably reductive process. The poet points out that it is her unwomanly love that sets him free, not her excessive devotion. It's rather neatly summed up in what must have been a shocking line for the time. But now you want a woman for your bride. Harford does admit that women have a tendency to the ultra-romantic and the devotional, but recommends they suppress it. Love, lest the woman in me, she says to a lover. It's a little reminiscent of Lady Macbeth's "unsex me here" speech. She too wants none of women's traditional weaknesses. Now this is not exactly hard-line contemporary feminism. It's a recognition long before time that long-term sexual relationships involve much more than a sentimental and obsessive devotion to the other party. Love all myself, Harford demands, including everything else she does with her life, not just the bits where she mends his socks and earlier fantasies about his watching her shadow on that blind. Another modern dimension to this 1917 poem is plainness of its diction. At a time when many Australian poets were still in the sway of late Victorian poeticisms, Harford says exactly what she means without archaisms or poetical flourishes. Although they are iambic pentameter, heroic couplets she uses go as far back as at least Chaucer in 1340 and 1400. So I'm just going to stop it there.
Okay. You know, I can understand that.
Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah. Because it was a simple kind of.
With the, wow, but I don't understand much, but
So,
I could follow that perfect.
And so the commentaries in this are by Jeff Page. And
She comes from your homeland too, Vince.
Okay.
And Isabel's.
So,
Well, but I could really
they're
understand that.
really well written commentaries that he goes through all these different poems. Yeah. So I've been working through some of these on my Tuesday night one as
Yeah,
well.
take the good one there.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, thank you. Sweet.
She's a great writer.
Anyway, I'm going to get rid of my phone because I never bring my phone with me. And it's run twice. One was has electricity bill.
Yeah.
Don't pay for electricity
Pity
bill.
her health wasn't a bit better.
Anyway, I'll put it in the car and Buddy can answer it.
She was rugged in her health. I forget what
Would
it
you
was.
like to come up?
Sure.
Thanks, Isabel. Welcome.
TB, did you read in your notes? Did she have TB?
I think it was.
I think it was. That
Yeah.
in those days. No penicillin.
All right. Well, welcome, Isabel. Come on up.
Thanks.
Okay, nice.
Alright, so I'm just doing 2 short poems from this resident book here, the Western Australian Poetry Anthology. Not much connection between the 2 poems, except I suppose they're both featuring creatures that undergo a metamorphosis. Anyways, the first is by Andrew Lansdowne, born in 1954, and it is Emergence. Cicadas have left their cuticles clinging to the daisy stems. Brown shells burst at the back of the thorax. Emergent one is exquisitely veined in aqua, its wings soft as membrane. Soon its juices will blacken and its wings will become cellophane. Then it will tick metallic and fast like an engine cooling.
That's a bit like her, actually. So that's a bit like the previous poet. Really.
Right.
That succinct clippedness.
This next poem is by John Matteo, born 1971, and I chose it because I have really fond memories of finding pobblebonk frogs in my childhood sand pit, buried in the sand. So, the frog memory. The frog's name and sound, pobblebonk, is enough to return me to those first nights of the rainy season, when a small cloud would gather over the 6-foot pond behind a friend's house, and the unseen frogs would begin their lingua aquatica, as though erratically thrumming lackey bands, as though that sound, bonk, 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 were the name they call themselves.
Read the first poem. Do you mind again?
Sure.
You first read? Yeah.
Sure. Emergence. Yeah, this is my first time reading either poem out loud, so I'm not. Cicadas have left their cuticles clinging to the daisy stems. Brown shells burst at the back of the thorax. Emergent, one is exquisitely veined in aqua, its wing soft as membrane. Soon its juices will blacken and its wings become cellophane. Then it will tick metallic and fast like an engine cooling.
Fast like an engine. That cicada noise.
Oh,
Yeah, like.
cicada, cicada.
You know when it like gets real and there's heaps of them and it's really loud and it's just awesome. It's the best sound in the summer. I love it. All right. This one was written. Oh no, these ones were written, and it only started with one, so then it grew. 3. No. 4. Short poems about not caring. In parenthesis. Actually, it's 5 now, because I had to go back and edit this, and perhaps even 6. Okay, now it's 6 short poems about not caring. 1. There are over 40 trillion ants, and not one of them cares about your situation. Eat a spoon of cement, pull up your own pants, and get used to this information. 2. There once was a bear who said, I don't care, I'm all this is shit. So he had a shit in the woods, brushed his hair, and wiped his bum with a rabbit.
Who wrote these?
Me.
Did you write these?
Yeah, bears always use rabbits to wipe their bum for some reason.
Keep going.
There once was a very blue whale who was feeling very depressed. A dolphin tickled its tail, and the whale was feeling its best.
Good.
No more will I cry a wail, even though I'm bald without hair. I care about love without fail, but for drama, I really don't care. That's number 3. Number 4, 2 lines. Of all the fish in the sea, not one give a shit about you or me. Number 5. I locked my cares in a jar, and then I was carefree. I left them behind afar. I don't care, they can't catch me. And number 6. It's everywhere, the air. I can't see it. Just like the abstract idea, care only happens when you're interested in it. So yeah, they were just little profound things about not caring of all things. About not caring, yeah. And it's funny because I was listening to what's her name? Abraham Hicks channeling, on exactly that. And it's like, yeah, I don't care about that. No. Well, yeah, but I do care about this. I care about being happy and making people laugh and stuff. Yeah. All right. So, Doug, would you like to come on up?
I was doing what I'm told, mate.
Hey, yeah. Well, look, you're divine. You've been divinely called by God.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, done.
Thank you.
Doug, I must thank Doug personally online to the world because Doug picked me up hitchhiking back from Armidale on Monday.
It was a gift to be of service.
Yes, thank you. It's a gift to be of service here.
Here's
There's
those
no
guys
one
from
performance
Galaxy.
is before, are there?
You're finished on the 22nd.
Oh, I'll give it a plug.
Yeah.
Yes, hello.
Don't forget to go to Armidale and see 1984. It finishes on the 22nd at the Armidale Playhouse. And Gabriel Dunleavy, the professor, not Marianne, who comes here, he's in it and it's really good.
Ah, thank you.
He's Big Brother.
He is too. Does a great job. Oh,
It's a very
Wow.
fascinating experience. Yeah. A bit cracked.
You got a...
Yeah. I've got one of them.
Thank you. That's always best.
Right. I have one right now. No. I've connected with. Sorry.
Ready to rock?
Yo!
Where's that bloody James? He always shoots through.
Now he's getting me some props.
Some what?
Props, you know, I need
Oh yeah?
things.
You're doing puppets and that.
No, just, you know, I need to draw a map.
That's great.
Yeah,
Everyone's talking away.
that's okay.
I'll just walk around.
Hey, you're a good person, pick it up.
Don't worry, we're just talking about George Orwell. It's
Tell
right.
me when I'm ready to go.
Yeah, yes. You
No,
are.
no.
Now,
You're right.
I got a focus on F. Good evening all. Now I'm going back, I've got 3 little bits tonight. This poem was written a week ago before this lady went to court. And actually there's a little tiny bit of top here. And James was just giving us his...
Yeah, I'm listening.
I got a focus, brother, on a shot duck.
Okay.
Now, you were giving us 5 or 6, what were they called?
Short poems,
I just picked out this little one-liner off somewhere. It says, by this guy called Peter Ottenberg, I don't know who he is. That's right, we were talking about flaneurs.
Ah, yes.
Did anyone know the flaneur expression? Comes out of Paris a couple of 100 years ago. It's about people who drink coffee and look at other people. They're flaneurs.
I used to be one in Glebe Point Road.
You used to be.
Glebe Point Road.
I'm still one today. In the mall.
Beatty Street Mall.
I'm still one, brother. Anyway, the saying by this guy is a flaneur. He said, little things in life supplant the great events. That was his comment. All right. Now, this poem was written sort of at a friend's suggestion, but we have a friend called Emma who's doing a battle with the cops. She's prosecuted for prescribing medicinal cannabis. She's probably hung the road for some people, I believe. Anyway, I read this little piece and did my best. Emma, it's called. I'm writing this I'm writing this piece for Emma S. She went to school in New England. The winter's cool, she handled okay. Ukraine in her blood deals with cold. A healer she was, helping people all over. Oil of cannabis did the trick when opioids weren't working. The cops arrived, enacted the law. They took her stuff, was pretty rough. Single mum, 3 young daughters, jail and prosecution. This case has been running a year or more. They closed Butte Hemp Store in Bellow. Sure. This cannabis tale has so much to teach. Hemp power is so long out of reach. Hemp power is long so out of reach. The power of the force and the force it employs doesn't heal. Compassion is missing completely. Emma helped souls with care and with love. The message she used did no harm. She stands in the dock on Wednesday the 12th, last week. Her sentence is yet to be known. Let's send her a prayer or whatever you do. A single mum fighting the mighty. Let's ask for some good, not punishment harsh. This strong lady needs much support. They said she broke rules devised by the state. Her innocence shines like a light. Her strength is so right. Her kids do it tough, watching mum in much struggle. Relief's on its way. Let the bullies retreat. Help Emma the healer get back on her feet.
Crucify.
Thank you.
The social voice.
What is it?
The social voice.
That's a bloody poem, that's all it is.
It's good to hear.
No, but thank you. But anyway, the latest in the context of the 12th last week was they've adjourned they're going to turn it into a jury trial, would you believe, next June. So that's in a blah. So our friend Harry in Armadale is suggesting we all arrive in court in June with probably $10,000. Okay. Anyway, just a statement. Now, I've got one other quick one, and I wanted to just excerpt a couple from this book if you give me a minute or two. Alright, this I'll read this a bit trite or a bit light. Yeah, I just said this the other day, I've got this on the road, I better do something. So it's about a pie. I've already apologised to the veggies, vegetarians. But, they're not attacking me yet. Okay, the name of this poem is called Pie and Sauce. And sauce can be spelled in various ways. Up to you. I'm going to the shop to get a pie. Do you care much at all? I'm smitten with need. Get a pie or I die. My tummy moans groaning. There could be another word, I missed that. Suppose, of course, you want bloody sauce. They do go hand in hand in Australia, so grand. My culture says cream must go with peaches, of course. Our pie cannot be, lest it's married to sauce. Please don't tempt me with sandwich, real sweet. Eggs and lettuce, so dandy, so neat. Don't waste time mine. Saucy pie, so divine. I'm carried away. Used to live in the States a few years ago. Could not stop dreaming of pies from down under. A Yankee hot dog just won't do it. Or neither a sausage of bratwurst. I cried. And they looked at me sad and confused. Pie and sauce from Australia, we must confess failure. The Yanks. We'll find out your secrets one day. Steak and kidney and pastry, they're so bloody tasty. They keep in the warmer all day. They're so quick and easy. Some are real cheesy. Come here and we'll shake it away. Last line. Once our pies come to feed you, you won't be the same. American pie will at last play the game.
Yeah. That's good. Lovely, yeah.
American pie, just a quick one.
No, keep on going.
Bye, that's right. I'll come on the Aussies.
That's lovely.
Now, just like to share, because this is relevant, I believe, in lots of contexts today too. I was gifted a book to read about Gandhi. I've had a superficial knowledge of him. To read his stuff and to read a little bit of this, I'm going to excerpt a tiny bit out of the Bhagavad Gita. Is that how you say it? Yeah, Bhagavad Gita. And it's just, if this guy preaches non-violence, and he talks about a lot of other principles, but he just said all them principles, even stuff like the sun on the mountain, all that stuff, they built it into us. He said you want to achieve any of it, unless you can become non-violent. Anyway, that's his preach. Okay, a little bit, just a couple of quick bits in and I'll shut up. He says here, Gita, or the Bhagavad Gita, is the Song of God. Gandhi describes its great virtues. And he wrote this thing in 1925 when he was in England studying law. And he beat himself up because he'd never read the Gita. But he did read it and he translated it actually. Anyway, he wrote in this magazine, Young Indianer, in 1925, he says, when doubts haunt me, when disappointments stare me in the face, and I see not one ray of light on the horizon, Gandhi wrote, I turn to the Bhagavad Gita and I find a verse to comfort me. I immediately begin to smile in the midst of overwhelming sorrow. And it says here, the Bhagavad Gita is an exquisite poem of 700 stanzas. Most stanzas consist of two, your poet's on the, but most stanzas consist of 2 lines, a few run to 4 and 6. The entire book is a divided of chapters, but it says, the Bhagavad Gita is part of a much bigger book. You know the word? The Mahabharata? Is that correct?
Mahabharata, yeah.
The greatest Indian epic, the world's longest poem. So 7 times as long as the Iliad and the Odyssey combined.
Jeez.
Wow.
So that's why I never knew the scale of things. Okay, now a couple of quick ones and I will be quiet. But it's a little bit about non-violence and about what we touched on a few weeks ago in Ireland. They used to challenge you, do you want a poem or a battle? So that's an interesting proposition to me, especially in today's world. Anyway, part of this excerpt, Gandiva, I think he's one of the Shivas or one of the Supremes. He says, I have unhappy forebodings, O Kashava, and I see no good in slaying kinsmen in battle. I seek not victory, nor sovereign power, nor earthly joys. What good are sovereign power, worldly pleasures, and even life to us? That's a bit of a deep fella. Now I've got another one here and I'm going to be quiet, I think. But he, you know, and the whole thing of this is about his attempt as a Hindu to resolve with the Muslim. Such powerful stuff. Anyway, to me to read about that. Anyway, here succinctly is the Hindu doctrine of the transmigration of this soul. Atman, it's called it. Krishna adds, this is no weapon's wound, this is no fire's burns, this no water's wet, this no wind doth fly, for certain is the death of the born, and certain is the birth of the dead. Therefore, what is in the unavoidable, thou should not regret. Don't read me. Really touched my heart this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't. Sorry, I forgot you fellas. Thank you. Millions of people out there.
I know. It's tough.
Yeah, the Bhagavad Gita is an interesting book. Because in Hindu spirituality, we're one. And it takes place sort of between Krishna and Arjuna overlooking a battlefield. And really early on within the book, because actually if you just don't read the full annotated version by Sri Prabhupada, but just the bare bones translation of the verses, and it's quite interesting because basically it talks about, it encourages you to live life with sort of purity, strength, discipline, honesty, kindness and integrity, sort of be righteous. But the really weird thing, because like when you read through the Mahabharata, there's like clearly the allusions to nuclear war and like wiping out a whole bunch of people, and then a whole city falling beneath the ocean, you know, and them having flying things that they could actually, you know, get around and fly and drop these bombs and stuff like that. And so we're talking about, you know, 40,000 years ago, so the times of Atlantis when that technology existed. They built these incredible monolithic temples out of rocks right around the world, because they had lasers that could cut those things and levitational technologies through sound. But yeah, the whole irony of it is, that of course they did. They wiped each other out in the end, and the whole city went beneath the ocean, which they found up there in that bay, you know, on the west side of India, under the ocean. They found the city. But this sort of what gets me is like they're having Krishna and Arjuna are up there having this discussion over the battlefield, and Arjuna's going, but like, because they're all one, we're all one and related. But they're my brothers and my uncles over there. How could we kill them? Oh no, it's all right because you're righteous. Go.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And that's like, I was like just about choked when I read that. Oh well, obviously Moses hadn't been around by then and given them the 10 Commandments. So, I mean, that was maybe 10,000 years after that Moses did his busy. Anyway, the Bhagavad Gita, a really incredible book, and it's worth a read. I've got a copy, sort of, it's well read. I've had it since I was about 16. So that's it in a nutshell.
Thanks, John.
On that, well, I'm going to read one out now. This was written this morning. Struck. It's actually kind of, in a way, it's based on some spirituals. You know, I read a lot of these sort of things and knowledge, and I get information from everywhere, and it's based on universal knowledge, laws, whatever, spirituality, universal acceptance, and appreciation through gratitude is a worry-free way of living in a peaceful attitude, observing the source in all living things and avoiding strife to evolve consciousness and co-create the nurturance of life. Magic happens, and shit also happens too. Appreciate the magic and celebrate that you have a poo. Because if you do not shit, then your chi and food won't flow, your chi gets stuck, and your consciousness feels low. If you want to raise your consciousness and have a better mood, then you've got to move your chi and be a flexi-axi dude. Get the source flowing for a pain-free, energetic life. Accept and appreciate both the great and the strife. With the preceding words, there are 3 universal laws. We're walking on 2 legs, evolved from all 4s, and if we live as one, then you'll see what we co-create. Appreciation, acceptance, nurturance, observe the source, and life is great.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's the toilet as well.
Yeah, a couple of sauce poems.
Very saucy.
Sauce.
Very saucy, buddy.
Ashley, welcome. Ashley Albanese.
Yay.
Well, I'm procrastinating because I've got to find my 5 rulers.
Oh.
I've got 5 tonight.
Well, no.
No, I haven't. I haven't got 5, but I thought it was a hypothesis that would sound very good and may stimulate someone to see me flashing 5 rulers. I found 1 on the table when I arrived, but I'll go back to 3. Hypothesis, implication, and parameter. And they're shortly to go like this. Like this, with a big, bold numeral due. 2 inside the triangle. And some of us will be and not be as the fates decide. today I read for the first time, meaningfully, Henry Lawson's marvellous writing, Send Round the Hat. Then I sat down up at the beautiful lookout here and I read some commentaries on it, and they just talked about the men. They talked about the racial cultural references to the Chows, the Chinese, and the Afghan camel herders. But the essays I read anyway, introductorily, didn't just ignored the women, who are the main climactic problem of the piece. But I recommend it to anyone who's interested in Australia. It's a brilliant thing. I think Lawson still is underrated, and who knows what he would have done if he hadn't hit the bottle. Now, he did enough anyway.
What was the name of that piece you just said?
Send Round the Hat. Again, I got it in this absolutely marvellous 1950 anthology of Walter Murdoch and Henry Drake Brockman, which is a creation of the West Australian template of European experience here on this continent. And I still think it's a fundamental collection of writing, this little book. Last week I waxed about Randolph Bedford's 14 Fathoms by Quaker Rock, and I'll come back to that in weeks to come. It is an extraordinary piece of writing. If only he'd put his energy into literature instead of sitting in Queensland Parliament for 25 years. Excuse my laughter. Well, I will start with one more other comment. I thought it was very interesting when James was reading, and I made a note of it, of course, that the great literary critic, Mr. Green, used the phrase out here or out there. Some of the best writing, speaking of Lesbia Harford's being done out here, as if we were sitting in an outside bush dunny at the back of Whoop Whoop, waiting to hear trumpets blaring from Pall Mall, giving us the divine way to go. Well, the way to go lieth in this little book, I think. Now, I wrote this standing in a second-hand bookshop. At 15, thereabouts, you both crouch between the ranking books you seek to rank. The redhead opens the Forsyth saga. At 7 or 8, the drought set in for her. 2 years of fierce, other scorching fieriness, then floods aflow, then war. The black-haired one smooths back her sheen, and bookshop quiet the now. How much your knowingness held fated eyes, ranked beyond rank, I was surprised to see, and looked to note the book perused. Hair Galsworthy from a time of turbulence not long ago, before fingertips to plastic button, harvested ocean libraries of text. I thought, just to add an addendum to that, I thought of my life at 15. You know, all the people on the Tweed thought I was bombed to death in a bushfire on the property of the local Member of Parliament, and the shadows of war were looming over us. So perhaps that young redhead's generation will fare forward as we certainly did. But I've never seen that look on 14, 15, 16-year-olds before that I saw on those girls' faces. Young women who were bright enough to be looking for the story and the meaning of the story. So, in Beatty Street Mall the other day, I watched this event. But before that, I wrote at the top of the page, the light that is all light, and the shadow that is all shadow. What is that then? Now the poem, I'll have to get a book of my strange aphorisms sometimes, and I'll have to come and sit and sing them to your dog.
Oh, I love that.
But that one took my breath away.
Which one, your dog?
No, the last one.
What, the philosophical aphorism?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to call them philosophical Ashleyisms.
Wow.
That's right.
Okay. This is something I observed in that flash of time for the timeless in Beatty Street Mall during the last holidays. The clown puts a thumbs up. The kids put their thumbs up. Will their thumbs vanish like the snaky scarf? No time for ours as the bicycle wheels spin in salute to the just achieved. Toes point to heaven, wrists unlocked from handlebars, as clown somersaults away from the contraption, the applause scatters. Holding a card in each hand and clapping them together as the noontime crowd claps in time to a whole range of jacks, queens, hearts and a joker he brings from the pack. All propped symmetrically, sequentially, with a plum in each hand. Clowns, prayer hands open, closed, the magic same of the kids' invited shuffle. The dingo doll, red, long-tailed from the Hessian bag that vanishes down the clown's pants. Layers of pants sloughed off. The crowd is agoggle. At 7 or 70 we see revealments. This becomes that, and that long soap bubble descends towards the mum's pram, bursting in a fiery, soapy opalescence. And Armadale Mall trees edge towards their first green spring buds. It's a ponderous line, but I liked it. It seemed to stretch out like the little buds on the branches.
I love the buds.
Armadale Mall trees edge towards their first green spring buds. What is yet? Yet to come. For half an hour suspended in up-downs and down-ups. Lifelong through expectant, see from the physics of games and games of physics, new startlements of rules startlingly to see. The top, its forever wards, spins, still going. Look at it flick there on the concrete. In its spin, last time I looked, still there, and the skittles a twirl from hand to hand as the one wheel pumps its wobbliness up to and away from, a juggling, the crowd gaping, and the little blue-shirted boy, please come forth, await in the mirror-sighted box, who hearing the clown tumbrel drawn roll thrice, never forth again shall come, well, not that one to the sound of the festive drum.
Oh, yeah. I like that. Yeah.
I'll re-edit tonight, still right. I'll set up in my little white gets there with looking to see birds coming down onto the lagoon, which they didn't do, but I still felt that, I was having a moment that might be mystic with the pantheist nature. But I'm glad you enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching the kids take such pleasure in that clown, and I hope something of that came through. I didn't bring the clown into it till quite into the flow of words, but I'm sure you got some sort of strange priest-like feeling of his presence flicking beyond. Thank you very much. I might. Can I bear with you for 5 minutes, or do you want to roll up? I'll finish with something special because I read it. Oh, you want to have a roll? I'll do this next fortnight.
Hey, so good.
Actually, I might get you to do this next fortnight. No, that's all right.
Oh, we got plenty of time.
Yeah.
I'll do this because I've read this 7 or 8 times, and I timed I can do it between 4 and 5 minutes and do justice to it. And it's very typical of something Australian. Remember that in 1950, if you're with Australiana or interested in it, in 1950, everybody would have known every reference here. And still, most well-read Anglo realm type of people would know all the nuances of this. Although James, not being a cricketer and being from that tropical world that we see mirrored in Thea Astley, as we see south of the Murray mirrored in Lesbia Harford, didn't quite pick these references. But my grandmother, my mother's aunt, she knew some of these people. The Taylors knew them, mad horsemen that they were. So, The Man Who Bowled Victor Trumper by wonderful Dale Stevens. Ever heard how I bowled Victor Trumper for a duck, he asked. No, I said, he was a beautiful bat, he said. He'd wrist like steel and he moved like a panther. The ball sped from his bat as though fired by a cannon. The three of us were sitting on the veranda of the pub at Urandri in the Burragarang Valley in the late afternoon. The sun fell full on the 1,400-foot sandstone cliff, but the rest of the valley was already dark. A road ran past the pub and wheel tracks were 18 inches deep in the hard summer-baked road. There was a batsman for you, he said. He was a big fat man with a chin like a cucumber. He'd worked in the silver mines at Urandri. The last had closed in 28, and for a time he'd worked in the coal mines further up the valley, and then had retired on a pension and half an inch of good lung left. Dust in me lungs, he said. All of my own fault. Money was good, do you know? If I tried to run 100 yards, I'd drop dead. Second man was another retired miner, but he had all his lungs, he had a broken nose and had lost the forefinger and thumb of his right hand. Before they became miners, they said they'd tried their hand at many jobs in the bush. Ever hear how I fought Les Darcy, the big fat man like a cucumber asked? No, I said. He was the best fighter we have ever had in Oz. He was poacher in action. He had a left that moved like quicksilver. He was a great fighter, I said. He was like a Greek god, said the fat man reverently. We sat watching the sun go down. Cliffs just behind us. Just before it dipped beside the mountain, it got larger. We could look straight at it. In no time, it had gone. Ever hear how I got Victor Trumper? No, I said. Where did it happen? Well, it was a match up at Burke. Tibby Cotter was in the same team. There was a man for you. His fastest ball was like a thunderbolt. He was a bowler and a half. Yes, I said. Well, you could hardly see the ball after it had left his hand. They put 2 lots of matting down when he came to Burke so he wouldn't kill anyone. I never saw him, I said, but my dad says he was very fast. Fast, says the fat man. He was so fast you never knew anything till you heard your wicket crash. In Burke, he split 7 stumps and we had to borrow the school kid's set. It got cold and we went into the bar and ordered 3 rums, which we drank with milk. Vince would like that. The miner who had all his lungs said, I saw Tibby Cotter at the City Cricket Ground and the English were scared of him. He was like a tiger as he bounded up to bowl, said the big fat man. He had even rounds he bluffed, said the other miner. Indians have special eyesight, but it wasn't enough to play Tibby. We all drank together and ordered again. It was my shout. Ever hear about the time I fought Les Darcy? The big fat man asked me. No, there wasn't a man in his weight to touch him, and the miner had all his lungs. When he moved his arm, you could see the muscles ripple across his back. Was loquacious on that one. When he hit them, you could hear the crack in the back row of the stadium, said the fat man. They poisoned him in America, said the other miner. Never gave him a chance, said the fat man. Poisoned him like a dog, said the other. It was the only way they could beat him, said the fat man. There wasn't a man at his weight that could live in the same ring as Les Darcy. The barmaid filled our glasses up again and we drank a silent toast. 2 men came in. One was carrying a hurricane lantern. The fat man said the two men always came in at night for a drink, and that the tall man in the raincoat was the caretaker at one of the derelict mines. Ever hear about the kelpie bitch I had once? Said the fat man. She wasn't intelligent and wide awake as you are. She almost talked. It was when I was droving. The fat man paid this time. But there isn't a dog in the bush to touch a kelpie for brains, said the miner with the broken nose. Kelpies can do almost anything but talk, said the fat man. Yes, I said, I've never had one, but I heard my father talk of one that was wonderful for working sheep. Well, all kelpies are beautiful to watch working sheep, but the best was a little bitch I had at Burke, said the fat man. Ever hear how I bowled Victor Trumper for a duck? No, I said. What about the kelpie? I could have got 40 quid for her any time for the asking, said the fat miner. I could talk about her all day. Ever hear about the time I forgot the milk for a pups? Sold each of the pups later for a tenner. You can always get a tenner for a good kelpie pup, said the miner, who had all his lungs. What happened when you forgot the pup's milk? I said. Oh, it was in the bucket, the fat miner said. And the pups couldn't reach it. I went to the kitchen and the bitch was dipping her tail in the milk bucket and then lowering it to the pups. Oh, big response from the audience. You can believe that or not as you like. I believe you, I said. I don't, said the other miner. What, you don't believe me? Cried the fat miner, turning to the other. Don't you believe I bowled Victor Trumper for a duck? Don't you believe I fought Les Darcy? Don't you believe a kelpie could do that? I believe you bowled Victor Trumper for a duck, said the other. I believe you fought Les Darcy. I believe a kelpie would do that. The fat miner said, you had me worried for a minute. I thought you didn't believe I had a kelpie like that. That's it, said the miner who had all his lungs. I don't believe you had a kelpie like that. I don't believe you had a kelpie like that. You tell me, who had a kelpie like that if I didn't, the fat miner said. I'll tell you, said the miner with the broken nose. You never had a kelpie like that, but I did. You've heard me talk about that little bitch many times. They started getting mad with each other then, as I said. How did you get Victor Trumper for a duck? There was a batsman for you, said the fat man. He used a bat like a sword and he danced down the wicket like a panther. Wonderful, wonderful Dale Stevens, wonderful. People used to wake up in Prague and see his drawings in the newspaper back when we had them and marvel at Australia producing such strange critters as he drew.
So, don't forget Saturday morning. Every Saturday we have a market here, and there's always room for market stall holders. It's only $10 to hold a stall here, so if you're listening out there. Last week I wrote 3 little poems about belly button fluff. Well, it got me thinking. It actually got me a little bit obsessed with belly button fluff because when I look down, it's there and I'm about to lose the battery on the phone. I better go on, anyway. We're about to lose the battery on the phone. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Sorry. That was 4 minutes, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, that's all right. I didn't have it charged up. That's okay. So here we go. Belly button fluff number 4. From where it comes, I don't know. Perhaps there's a seed that makes it grow, but every day I find this stuff